So we'll explain that as we go along. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Randy Leva.
Thank you very much. Great turnout. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what our thinking is as we're going into next year. And so we have a brief presentation for you tonight. I'll just cover the agenda real quick. I'd like to start with introductions though. And I want to make sure you know who the board members are. I know you're going to get a chance to talk to them individually, but we want to know, we want you to see all of them that are here tonight and recognize them. So we have our board president, Colleen Burton, here. She can wave in the back. There's Colleen. We have our board secretary, Tammy Bonfield, next to her. And we have board trustees, Dan Centers, Liz Jarvis, Mark Johnson, and Eileen McDonald. So those are the board members that are here tonight, and they're looking forward to spending some time with you as we move forward. So again, as Carol had mentioned, when we look at the agenda for tonight, I'm going to spend maybe 15 minutes, I hope I can get it done in 15 minutes, to give you just some big, broad, general information about where we're at, both with our budget and what our thinking is with the facility here. But really tonight is about an opportunity to allow you to spend some time with board members. And so the vast majority of our time tonight will be allowing you to spend time in those small groups, having conversation with board members. So we can go to the next slide, Jen. You can see 15 minutes from when we break into the small groups, really what we want to do is the board members will have some specific questions that they want to pose to you to get good feedback as it relates to your thoughts in regards to where we're moving. And so typically what we do is you'll be assigned a group. You'll go, we'll send you off to the group, and then we'll make sure that each person, one of the key things that we do when we hold these types of community forums is we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. And so as they ask these questions, they'll make sure to go around the room and ask everybody that's in their group, you know, that particular question, and everybody to provide feedback. If you don't want to provide feedback, you don't have to. If you'd rather write it down rather than say it, you can do that. You're actually going to have forms. And what happens is we'll also have recorders in each of the group, and so they can capture a lot of the comments so we can keep those, because every board member is not going to be in every group. And so what we do afterwards is we'll collect all that information, both your written comments and the ones that we collect from the recorders through the verbal comments, and we'll summarize all those and make sure that every single board member gets a copy of those. So that's how those small groups will take place, and that's really the focus of the work that we're going to do tonight. So I'm going to just jump right into giving you a little bit of background information, and if any of you were at our budget forums last year, you're going to remember some of this data that we shared with you. But when you're looking at what's going on with funding in schools across the state of Michigan and the challenges that they're facing, you can see that the amount of money that we received per student back in 07-08, many years ago, was $8,500 per kid. And we're now down to about $8,100 per kid. And so if you look at a loss of $400 per student, that's a significant loss for us and other school districts across the state of Michigan. So that's been one big pressure for school districts as they've been trying to balance their budgets over that time. If I can show you the next slide, it identifies our overall revenues that we have to spend on programs in our school district. You can see in 2007, 2008, we had about a $157 million budget. Just last year, our budget's down to $140 million, and you see some squiggly lines on there. Some of that money is money coming in and money coming out to the retirement system. I'm sorry, you can't see? Okay. I'm going to move over so you can see the slides. I apologize. And so, really, we're down about $20 million over that period of time. And so those are the challenges that the school board and we've been facing in regards to maintaining programs and services for kids. We're actually down $20 million in revenue over that period of time. You can see what's happened then to our overall financial condition. This is our general fund balance. What's a fund balance? It's like the money that you have left over in your school account after the year's over. Recommendations from people across the state in regards to how much money a school district have would be anywhere from 5 to 10%. In fact, the state just passed legislation where they're pushing school districts to have an 8% fund balance. For us, an 8% fund balance is going to be in the ballpark of about $11 million. And you can see our fund balance going at the end of last year is just under $4 million. It's projected to be under $1 million at the end of this year. And so that's where we're at right now. So you can see really what happened was in the 90s when times were good, we built that fund balance up, saving the money for tough times. And then since 2000, times have been pretty tough for school districts, and we've been utilizing that, again, in order to save programs over that period of time. So why has this been happening in our school district and other school districts? This just gives you a sort of a big picture idea of what happens every single year in the school district that's in declining enrollment, as we are and is about 80% of the school districts across the state of Michigan. In fact, our enrollment has always been about 1% of the overall state enrollment. And so if you went back to about 2000, the state overall student count was about 1.8 million. Now, and our enrollment at that time was 18,000. Right now, the state has about a 15,000 or 1.5 million number of students across the state, and we have about 15,000. So we've really just monitored, or we've just gone along with the state trends over that period of time in regards to the number of kids that we have. The difficulty from a budget standpoint is if you can think about us the way that we're funded, we basically get a dollar a month per kid, which has gone down, and you multiply that by the number of students that you have. And so if we're down 300 students in a particular year, we lose $2.4 million in state funding, okay? Think about 300 students, and we have about 800 classrooms in our school district. What cost can we really reduce if we've lost 300 students over 800 classrooms? That's the challenge that we have, and other school districts have had in balancing their budgets over this period of time in Michigan. And so this just gives you a little flavor. Well, maybe we get a little bit more money in our foundation allowance, like last year we got $50 per kid, but maybe they bumped up the retirement cost, which last year was about $900,000 in total. Maybe we can reduce a few teachers here and there based on where those kids fall. And so when you're looking at that, the bottom line is we're looking at a structural deficit of about $2 million a year that we've been carrying and other school districts have over quite some time. What have we done? I said we're down about $20 million over that period of time. So what have we done in regards to try to reduce our costs? These are the types of things that we've done. We've reduced classroom teachers. We've reduced support staff in our K-12 buildings. We used to have kindergarten aides in our kindergarten classrooms. We don't anymore. Teaching materials, textbooks, staff training, administrative and secretarial support. We've reduced maintenance, custodial costs, transportation services. We've actually elongated the bus stops to save some money in transportation. Implemented a pay-to-participate plan for anybody who's participating in extracurricular activities, and a variety of cost-saving and revenue enhancement ideas, whether it be a energy savings program or a program to reduce some purchase costs, whatever it might be. We saved millions of dollars implementing cost-saving revenue enhancement ideas in order to protect as many programs as possible. So you can see we've done a lot of things. That's just in the last 5 years or so. If you want to go before the last 5 years, we've actually reduced another $28 million on top of that. And so really over those last 12 to 15 years, 500 jobs, employees have taken concessions. We've implemented an energy savings program. Many years ago we closed a lot of schools. We've developed cooperative agreements. These are just some examples of things that we've done to maintain as best possible of the programs and services that we have in our school district. So again, big picture standpoint, this is what we've been facing every year. You know, we're still very, very proud of the programs and services that we have here in the Livonia Public Schools. We still think we have great things to offer families and to offer kids. But the bottom line is, when those revenues continue to go down on an annual basis, and the state's not giving us very much more money, every year we're back looking at what we're going to do to balance the budget and continue to provide programs and services for kids the next year. So that's a big picture summary of the overall budget situation. Because of that, we spent quite a bit of time earlier in the year already talking about planning for next year's budget. We had community forums to get feedback in regards to things that we should consider. And so that led us really to where we're at today. And so I want to give just a little bit of background before we get into our groups of what our thinking was as we came up with this particular proposal for the Board of Education. First and foremost, it actually came out of conversations that happened not about the facility, but about the programs that are provided here at Perrinville and what we can do to provide opportunities for kids. And so over time we've had conversations, for example, elementary principals have talked to us about the preschool programs and how great it would be to have a preschool program in their school to be able to work with those kids in their preschool as they're getting ready to go on to kindergarten next year. So those kinds of conversations have actually been going on for some time with our elementary principals about how we can provide programs and services to preschool students. Another thing we talked about with the ECP program is the opportunity to have them work and integrated with our general ed preschool program that we have at Jackson, and what opportunities there would be for kids if we were able to combine those different programs together for kids. And so that's another thing that we've been talking about over time, not specifically related to this facility, but as it relates to programs for kids. And so what came out of that, those conversations over time was, fast forward to this January, when we had conversations with our community about thinking about our programs and services for next year. The community, when they provided feedback to us in regards to the programs and services that were important to them, they basically outlined for us that what is important to them are programs, and what's not as important to them are things such as property, facilities, etc. And so those are some of the big picture general pieces of feedback that we received when we talked to over 300 people in January about if we've got tough decisions to make, what should we do to implement those tough decisions. And so in thinking about that and knowing about the conversations that we've had about the programs this year, that's really what led to the recommendation to go ahead and look at maintaining all the programs here and all the services here, but relocating the programs throughout our school district. I'll get to the placement here in a second. I do want to highlight just for a second some of the things that we've done as it relates to planning for if we could even pull this off. And so, again, first and foremost, when we talk about maintaining programs, which is what the goal of the board has been, and the goal that we heard from the community has been, with these particular programs, make no mistake about it, our goal is to maintain these programs and maintain the staff that are providing the service for those programs. So that's first and foremost what would happen even if the programs aren't provided in this facility. The programs are still going to be here. The staff that provide that service are still all going to be here. We also talked about a lot of logistics, just to give you an idea that we've been thinking about and talking about logistics and specifics as we moved along. So we talked about things such as bus loops. We talked about things such as playgrounds and the needs if we were to move these programs, what we would do with playgrounds, parking lots, whatever accommodations we'd have to make for parking lots. We talked about the classrooms, and in the majority of cases where the programs would go would actually be renovated new classrooms based on these buildings being renovated through the bond issue. So we talked about how that would impact and how that would need to make sure that they're accommodating these particular classes for these kids. We talked about updating the ECP classrooms if they were to move to Jackson and how we would do that. We've looked at all the licensing requirements that we have to do for preschool programs. That's been looked at. We've looked at the general use areas because we know that these kids are in the classrooms for some time, but they also have general use areas that they also utilize, so we talked about those areas. And we spent a lot of time talking about professional development as it relates to making sure that wherever these programs are going, the receiving school would be trained and integrated as part of working to have the staff all ready to go and working for kids as we move forward. Again, as if I can go back to the previous slide, just as a quick reminder, and I think the majority of people probably know where we're talking about these programs potentially going. So we're looking at the Autism Spectrum Disorder Program going over to Roosevelt. The ECP program would go to Jackson Center. The GSRP programs would go to 2 of our elementary schools where the largest populations come from. That would be Cleveland and Rosedale. The MOCI and the VI classroom would go to Webster. In fact, that's where the MOCI program came from a few years ago. And right now we're thinking that the Talk It Up program, where the kids come for about an hour and a half and receive services, would go to Grant Elementary School. Again, these are just highlighting the variety of things that we've talked about to make sure that if we're going to do this, that we have a good transition plan in place, a lot of professional development for the staff, both to integrate with the new school that they would be at, with the new staff, they would become part of that community, making sure that we're meeting all the needs of the kids that are in these particular programs as we move forward. Okay? So that's the brief overview. If I went through a lot of information pretty quickly. One of the things that we want to make sure that you do is write down and jot down your questions, because what we'll do is we'll collect those questions and we'll make sure to do another Q&A to get information out for questions that people had about some specifics. When you talk and you're in your groups with board members tonight, they're not going to know every specific question in detail as it relates to the overall plan, but they're going to want to jot down what you're thinking, what your thoughts are, so we can then get that information out to everybody. So whether it's part of my brief presentation here today, or whether it's in discussion that comes up in your overall big picture conversations that happens in your group, make sure to get those questions written down. We'll have forms for you to use when you're in the group, so you can write down again your thoughts. Make sure to get those down so we can get the responses and answers to those as we move forward. So again, these are the facilitator questions that we have, and they're pretty darn broad and open-ended because we want to hear from you, and we want you to be able to tell us what you are thinking to get those thoughts out to us. So, for example, first question is just going to be get to know people in your group. So tell us about your involvement with Perrinville. Who are you? Are you a staff member? Are you a parent? Are you an alumni? And just tell a little bit about who you are and why you're here tonight. And then next, this is really the big overarching question. Now that you have an overview of the plan for Perrinville, please share with us the potential advantages and disadvantages that you see specific to your child and his or her program. We want to hear from you about your child and what your thoughts are as it relates to where these programs may be. And then last is sort of just a summative question. As you look at the plan, what's the most important piece of information that we need to take away? Something you really want to say, don't forget about this as you're thinking about and contemplating these decisions. Okay? So these are the three questions that you're going to see, and we are ready to break you into your groups. And so here's where the groups are going to go. And what I'm going to have you do is actually just number off.
Are you saying that we can't ask questions out loud in front of the board members?
No, absolutely.
Okay, so we don't have to just write them down.
No. They're going to go through these questions, and they're going to go around and make sure everybody's heard in the room.
But we can ask them verbally more
Absolutely,
questions.
absolutely. We want you to, and we want you to write them down and make sure, we want to make sure to be able to get those answers. Absolutely. Yes.
Real quick clarification, when you surveyed those 300 people...
If it's that question, I want to come back to that because I want to get you guys in your small groups. So if you want to come and ask me...
involved in these programs,
Yeah.
or 300 random people?
If there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. I want to get... Well, we'll be happy to... We'll answer all the questions, but if we don't get into the small groups, we're not going to be able to get the conversation
We should
started.
all ask in our small groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to have you start numbering off 1 through 6.
Boy, you can't use that in there. You cut your hair.
You're quite incorrect.
And back where the chairs are, going in the left-hand door, just in front of that. Thank you.
Open Meetings Act. They don't want what these people say to be recorded.
I know. I was on a school board. I can already see the writing on the wall. This is ridiculous. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Who just said my name? You're awesome.
All right, Caitlin, we're going to sit in the back. Again, I want you to be as quiet as possible. Try not to have outbursts, even when you're upset. Go over to my grandma and listen to what they say, and you'll have your turn to speak.
It'll be better. We'll see what happens.
Are you going to try to bounce from room to room?
No, I think I'll stick here.
As we get
Thank you.
Good, how are you?
We, just like the community forums, we're asking that you not record in the parent forum group.
And I am denying your request.
Okay,
This is an open meeting. It is subject to the Open Meetings Act, and you have no authority to block anyone from reporting an open
you
meeting.
can attend the meeting, but we, just like the forums, we want parents to have the opportunity
If you
to share.
break the law, you can hardly expect that I'm going to go along with it. You have no right to make this secret.
Okay, well,
Period.
it is not secret, as you
You're
are
right,
in
and there's
attendance
a
right
whole
now.
lot of people that do not have the ability to be here, and this will be on the internet so they can see it. So if you have nothing to hide, you should have no problem with being recorded.
And the comments that everybody makes are anonymous too, nobody's names are with them, and by
Ma'am,
video.
this is
Excuse me,
an
may I please
open
finish?
meeting. No, because this is part of the law. It's not open for debate. This is how desperate they are to make sure that nobody hears them.
Mrs. Boca's trying to do her job, trying to protect your sisters.
Because this stuff scares
That's what is going on here.
And the law is very clear. You cannot interfere with somebody that is recording.
Makes sense?
By law, every one of us. Hi, good. How are you?
Of course. And he's doing his best of his job to protect her rights. That's how good things work. But maybe this won't go our way because we continue But even if she's the first time,
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Romek is not allowed to take this portion of the meeting. We want to respect your privacy. It's part of the Open Meetings Act. He understands that. If he chooses to continue to take this meeting, we'll have to ask you all to reconvene this meeting. So, Mr. Romek, it's your decision if you'd like everybody to leave today.
Do you all have a problem with him recording?
No. We do not desire to have you take this portion of the meeting.
And this is an open meeting. It's the law. You have no authority to block an open meeting from being recorded.
We can ask you not to record the meeting.
And you did. And I have stated I fully intend to exercise my rights under the law. You can tell me that you don't want me to exercise those rights. That does not change what those rights are. If I'm breaking a law, tell me what law it is.
We disagree with that now. We respect that you have an opinion on this. We have an opinion also, and we disagree. And so
we don't care. You can record.
If you would like to join another group, come see us in the hallway and we can assign you to another group.
If need be, then I'll go to another group. But I will be recording.
Because you won't respect what we've
So
done.
now you're
with
going to
these
threaten?
forums.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
No.
He has,
We're
he's not doing
willing.
anything wrong by recording.
And none of
He's
us have a
fine.
problem with, well, I guess I can speak for
Excuse me,
everyone.
bottom line is you guys don't want him to record, right? But he wants to record, so if we go to another meeting, you will stop if he comes in there too. So it's just gonna keep going in a circle.
Well, that would be pretty sad, I think, for everybody that's here tonight, wouldn't it?
But he's not doing anything wrong.
In your eyes, I understand that.
What law am I breaking, Randy?
I'm not going to get into the...
Yeah, because there's nothing he's doing wrong.
Now, what he's saying is, I don't want a public meeting to be recorded.
Oh, I understand.
And they have the right to simply say, you know what, we're going to not have a public meeting. They do have that right. What they don't have a right is to have a public meeting and to keep it secret, to keep it unable to be recorded. The state law is very clear on that.
And if we're challenged on that, we're wrong about that, we'll certainly change our behavior. But we've done many of these forums in the past, and we've had great success with making sure that everybody feels safe in the room, including the people that have to stand up here and work with everybody here.
Recorded, what's the difference between a videotape? If you're gonna record it on a video recorder.
No, we're not recording.
Oh,
When we say recording, we're writing comments down. What our hope is that if someone wanted to share comments, we're not attributing anyone's comments to their name specifically. So in case a staff member or a parent or something like that wants to share feedback, but they don't necessarily want it attributed to them, that's our goal here.
When you have a public meeting, under the law,
We
you
understand.
can't have a private conversation and expect privacy in a public meeting. This is a public meeting. You may not want me to record, but I will record it.
If nobody backs down, nothing gets done today.
So should we just go join other rooms? Is that what we should do?
But if we join another room and he comes in, they're gonna stop it again.
What's the bottom line purpose of these meetings?
So we can get feedback.
Why
Keep
are we
everybody
all
away from
separated
each other.
into different groups to begin with?
Because number one, we get small group conversations a lot bigger than trying to talk to 150 people.
What's our bottom line of this whole meeting anyways?
Bottom line is to get feedback from people in regards to the
What is
questions
the
that were
is the
posed.
feedback gonna change anything that's gonna happen?
It often has,
Well, what?
yes.
Will you
Like
be
what?
keeping Perrinville open if you don't, if the feedback is all in favor of keeping it open?
No, but we may look at what our options
there
are
you
and what
go.
kind of feedback we've gotten in regards to what the needs are, absolutely. That's why we're here tonight, we want to hear from people.
Yeah, the format of the meeting,
I think the bottom line is nobody wants the school to close, that's it.
Yeah.
We
One
know this.
purpose.
We understand that
That's
the
it,
people
right?
that are
So
here
that's not gonna
tonight,
change, so,
but we understand
or are we
that,
just having these meetings just to appease everybody?
no,
Just to make
we
sure
actually
everybody
want
knows
to
that we're
hear
being
what
heard?
you have to say.
I don't want you to record me, Lloyd.
Then don't, no, you're in an open meeting. You can choose to leave an open meeting. You can't demand privacy in an open meeting.
That's really, it's really important.
Yes, obeying the law is very important, Randy. Not being
You had
able to
this pretty
simply
planned
run
out,
this.
didn't you?
We always, it's the same way we've done every single.
So you didn't
meeting that we have.
anticipate him coming here with that and
No, he came to
recording?
the last meeting, did the same thing, and he agreed to leave.
No, Randy, I did not agree to leave.
Well, you-
I agreed to
Are
not
you
to.
guys planning to have a presentation, or are we just, is
No, this is an opportunity for us to hear
question
from
and
you.
answer? Is
Yes,
that what
this
this
is an
one
opportunity
is?
for us to hear from you. Yeah, basically, the board members pose questions, and we go around and make sure that everybody has a chance to speak.
And the public as a whole has a right to both hear those questions and hear the answers that their fellow citizens have chosen to put out in a public meeting.
Okay, so would you recommend if we would like to have our comments heard to just get up and go to another room? Would that be in our best interest?
That's what I would suggest, yes.
And if there is no public meeting in this room, I will go to the room that does have one.
There is no public meeting in any of the rooms. That is-
Yes, actually it is, Randy. There's case law on that.
It's a-
I guess I'm really confused. How is it a done deal that Perrinville's closing when the board hasn't voted on it yet?
we have not.
Then how is it a done deal? Why are parents getting letters home and why are packing boxes being brought to this building if it has not been voted on?
Are you kidding me? They're everywhere.
To my knowledge, it requires a vote of the board in order to close a building.
And again, if you want to join one of the forums and discuss that, absolutely, please do. You're open, go in and share your feedback. You know, we have wanted to keep this, you know, it's not me discussing a lot of this stuff. I'm not the expert on Perrinville School, it's hearing from you guys. So if you want to have your voice heard, please, you know, you're welcome to go in the other room. If you want to leave your comments by writing, I can also have you do that. I've got, you know, the forms for that. So, you know, feel free to kind of make a choice either way.
Excuse me, I got a question. Do you think closing Perrinville School is what's best for kids?
We are, like I said, we're not going to have the forum in this room, but if you'd like to move to another forum, we'll do that.
They don't want it to ever come up.
So are they gonna answer us if we say that?
Well,
Like,
again,
in another
again,
forum where it's not being videotaped?
our purpose here tonight is to gather information from teachers, from parents, from everyone. Make a determination. Talk with the administration and
I
find
think it's
out,
ironic
you know,
that
what's
back in
good
the
for the
library,
district and what's
Randy
good for
said,
families and
if
parents and kids.
this building gets
So
closed, and just now
I
the
haven't made a
superintendent said.
determination yet because I haven't heard all about
Jackson
that.
Center's already sending letters home, but by the way, your child's program won't be housed here next year. It's gonna be.
Go ahead,
So,
yes.
as a personal decision, I want her to see this forum happen as if it were just my personal decision. I would be saying you. But I want her voice to be heard, so I'm gonna walk to another room. But I appreciate you. I cannot tell you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you. This is the last one I went to. I was lied to. I was lied to. And because that wasn't
When he talks about that forum in January,
happening.
300 people had a
voice.
300 people had a voice.
That's why they
Perrinville
say,
wasn't on there.
that's why they demand that it not be. They would rather shut the thing down than have it recorded, because they don't ever, they want to be able to tell you. I never said that.
Well, sir, I commend you for helping my children. I do. And I know you're not just here for my kids, but I have two children here, and I can't tell you. Because honestly, being in that other forum hearing that her school was going to close, but never Perrinville was mentioned. K4 buildings were mentioned, Webster was mentioned, never Perrinville. So I appreciate you doing what you're doing.
But,
can't
yeah,
tell
I
you how
do.
much. I've been a part of school boards my entire life, and I absolutely know that you are speaking the truth.
And it is the law.
It absolutely is the law. Room 5.
She's 4.
4.
Where are you going? Are you doing another group? Okay.
You should know this is where
Yeah, because we have, we'll still have one here. Do you guys want to?
Are there any other chairs available?
There's one. There's one.
Here's one here. Is that one back there? A couple little ones, there's more little ones.
And there's this,
Yeah, here's
a green one.
a rolling one, if you're okay with that.
Ma'am, I think a couple more out the They might have dispersed.
Okay, those people who just walked in, we were just doing introductions, so if you would just say who you are, what your name is, if you're a parent, a teacher, an alum, and if you have a child here, what program they're in. And we'll just start over here.
I'm Amy Marshall. I have twins. One is in the ASD program, the autism program, and the other is in GSRP.
Okay, and just keep going around. If you've already said it, you don't have to repeat it. But anyone who has walked in, please introduce yourself. Okay.
Jan Kaywood, I'm just a community member.
Thank you.
Jason Dabalski, my son Zach Dabalski is in ICP.
All right. Don't be shy. If you've just joined us, shout out.
Heather Hoffman, I have a son here in the ASD program.
Okay.
Maria Bennett, I have a son in the ESD program.
Kirsten Nickel, I'm a teacher of the ASD program, and my husband and I have 2 children in the ECP program.
My name is Heather Wyman, and I have a daughter in the ECP program.
Okay.
My name is Angela Swanson, and I have a daughter in the ECP program.
Alrighty.
I'm Laura Bliss, I'm a teacher.
I'm Lloyd Romick. I have a daughter over at Grant.
Okay.
My name is Julie Cundy. My son used to attend in the ECP program, and I have a son in Packagug now.
Okay. And Rob, you already did.
My name is Kitty Yelmerud. I'm an autism consultant. I work here at Perrinville.
Excellent. We miss anybody?
I'd like to add one more thing.
Sure.
My son attended 3 years here as well in the GSRP and speech program.
Okay, thank you. For those of you who missed our introductions, I'm Liz Jarvis. I'm the newest member on the school board. And as I said earlier, that means that you may have questions that I don't have answers for. And that just means I'm going to go digging and get those answers for you. This is Jen Terriel, and she is
Administrator of Student Services. I'll be your recorder and the timekeeper.
Right, so everything you say, we want to keep track of because it's important to us. And if you have a question, if I don't have the answer, if Jen doesn't have the answer, we'll find out who does. The format's going to be like this. This is a really crowded room, and we're going to try and make sure that we sort of go in order. But when we ask a question, you will have an opportunity to give an answer.
If you would rather not speak, that's okay. There are forms where you can write down questions you have, thoughts that you have, and so on. After we go around the room one time, we'll go around again in case you thought of something else you'd like to add, or maybe if something that somebody said has given you something else to think about. Don't feel compelled to add anything if you don't think you need to, but if you have some additional thoughts, we'd be happy to hear those. Questions? Comments? Okay, here we go. Got your pencil ready?
I'm ready.
All right, the first question, which is technically the second question because the first was who are you? Now that you have an overview of the plan from Perrinville, which we talked about in the general session, please share with us potential advantages and disadvantages that you see specific to your child and his or her program. If you don't have a child here, perhaps it's a program that you had a previous child affiliated with, and that would be okay too. And we'll start right over here on my left.
I'm going to defer.
Okay. It's not fair to be first, is it?
I just feel that, you know, the advantages of keeping Perrinville is just a whole. I mean, the kids are, it's a tight-knit little community here. They're so safe. Everybody knows each other. The equipment and the staff that they have here is remarkable, and I just feel that if these children get transferred anywhere else besides Perrinville for these special needs for these children, it'll just be a total disadvantage.
Okay.
I just feel it's just a disadvantage by far.
Okay, okay. You can kind of check what we're writing and make sure that it reflects what you're saying.
Yeah. So your advantage is basically everything. It's a tight community and it's a tight staff.
Just with what I've experienced for my children, they have benefited greatly from this place. They're just on top of it. It's the best place for them, for these kids all around.
Okay. And your disadvantage is the exact opposite, moving the students away from the supports.
I think to take these kids away from everything that they have here in one place is nothing but, I can't think of a good word, but
We're going to get, we're
We'll
going to
get
follow
to you.
format.
I mean, to the equipment, to the convenience, to busing, to, you know, referrals, to just, I mean, everything that they have, the whole setup here is just ideal for all these children. And they know this place.
Sure.
You know? So I don't know where else they're going to accommodate like they do here for these kids. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go across the front.
Mine is just more to elaborate on what she said. My daughter is, all the schools that I checked and everything that I checked, this was the only place and the only place that I came in and felt comfortable leaving her here. I felt comfortable after I met her teacher within 10 seconds. She cared about her right after she met her.
Sure.
The staff cared about her. I liked Kitty right after I met her.
Well, what's not to like?
It's just, it's a comfortableness that you don't get at a lot of schools, and a lot of people take that for granted. Because they think, you know, most kids, their kids may be, you know, in what is NT, so they don't pay attention to how hard it is to be comfortable with where you leave your child. When my child will get up and take off in 10 seconds. Or she'll be paying so much attention in her head to what's going on that she doesn't see what's happening. And my problem, disadvantage with the new school is, what if they're not as attentive or as equipped for what her needs are?
Okay. You know that the same staff will be there. The staff won't change.
But I'm talking about the school environment itself.
In the building.
Yeah,
the building will be different, but everything else will be the same.
Okay.
Well, the staff will be the same, the program will be the same, the equipment will literally pick up and move over, the playground will pick up and move over, as much as possible intact.
They're going to try to keep it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though if she's in Roosevelt, it's still.
Yeah. It'd still be the same teachers. We're still going to have speech
So the
pathologists.
only thing is the building.
The building, exactly.
And they're keeping the same ASD teachers with the ASD kids.
Kitty's coming.
Yeah.
And that makes me a little less nervous.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this.
Okay.
So you need, that's an important thing.
No, that is because
It's
my
huge.
nervousness was about her being somewhere without the same environment around her.
The same staff, the same people, the same teachers, the same parapros, the same therapists.
Okay.
All the equipment from the PTA is coming with you.
Can I comment on yours really fast?
We just need to keep moving around.
got a lot
because
of people.
We have a lot of people who need to have their voices heard as well.
Speaking about the staff, okay, my daughter is an ECP.
We need to
Al,
follow.
just a minute. My daughter's an ECP. Miss Kitty used to come to my house once a week to talk to my daughter because she was so ill. Now, if Miss Kitty's going to be at Roosevelt and we're going to be at the Jackson Center, how are we still going to get the same kind of care that my daughter received here at Perrinville when everybody's not together?
Okay, so personalized care.
My daughter was at a homebound IEP because she was so sick this year.
IEPs will all still be.
I understand that, but the staff is going to be all over the place, and we're not going to have the same tight knit. Everybody's still not going to be on the same page
Then
like they
that's
are
something
here.
that we need to have on this list so that we know about it.
Okay, so I wrote a few things so I could keep track while here. And I came in here kind of blindly, honestly. So I did a little bit of research, and I have specific questions that obviously I can't address right this moment.
That's fine.
But I'm just gonna, one of the segments that I wrote. So here's how I feel. Perrinville has helped my daughter come leaps and bounds since just January this year when she started. I am so proud of my daughter and how far she has come with her development in speech and language, and I am so thankful for Perrinville and each special teacher and person on staff who makes this place what it is. It seems to me that Perrinville is not just a school, but more like a family. These teachers and therapists and aides and everyone else work together as a well-oiled machine, okay? So having a camaraderie between staff creates a warm and welcoming environment for the kids and the parents when we all walk in here. This place is magical. So this has been an amazing experience for my daughter and myself. The school is amazing to me, and I can't imagine children who need these services not having them available as it is here, because it's a safe place for children who may not be very confident to come in, and they bloom and they flower and they blossom and they become their own little people with confidence, with peers around them who have similar social deficits or whatever you'd like to call it. Okay, and I think it's better than throwing them into like a hodgepodge of a bunch of kids with different abilities, and it might not be that great. So that's where I'm coming from. So these children may require more time and different teaching techniques, but I believe they deserve a quality of life that every other kid has. And I think Perrinville really offers that. Because the other thing too is it's so focused on the children, the programs specifically tailored the way they are for the different needs that children have, that they offer the workshops, meetings with parents and a bunch of information that you have to really search really hard online yourself and find all of this stuff. And it can be, I thought my daughter was on the spectrum 2 years ago. She had tantrums where she was screaming and slamming her head into the floor, into the walls, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I cried so much, and I had no idea what to do, and I didn't know where to go. And finally, the pathway has led to here. And I am so grateful that she got just the 6 months, or it'll turn into, 7.5, 8 here to get her to where she needs to be. But honestly, I don't think that splitting up the kids into different locations is a very good idea.
So is your child one that went from the ASD program to go to the ECP program to visit there?
Her IEP here, she just came in January for speech and language.
Oh, okay, so you're in the top enough?
Yeah. Okay. No. So that's all I have to say. And I'm not just speaking, I can speak for my child all day long, but it's not just about my daughter, it's about all of them.
Right. I understand that.
I want to let the parents be able to speak, that's what this meeting was about, but
Well, it's for everybody.
I guess I just want to be very supportive. I've worked in this building for the last 11 years, going on 12, and there is a community, what everyone is describing, where people do feel safe. We do have locks on the doors where alarms go off. People, when they hear a child is running down the hallway, I don't think a 5th grade teacher can respond the same way that somebody who's in the special education field can respond.
That's a good point.
And that is something that is not going to happen in a K-4 building. I also feel very strongly that when you have a multidisciplinary staff of people that work together, speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, teachers who are certified in multiple impairments, cognitive impairments, visual impairments, I already said that, learning impairments, early childhood educators that work together, that know what they're doing, and that is why you're hearing these parents talk about being comfortable.
Yes.
We've all been in Myers with a screaming child, and we're all mortified. You come into Perrinville, you're not mortified. Somebody's going to hand you a lollipop, someone's going to take your child. If this child were to cry right now, somebody's going to pick him up and do what they need to do.
All right.
So I support the staff and the family. I'm obviously very emotional and just
That's okay.
feel very strongly about it.
Today, a child bolted out a door, dropping my daughter off today, and the staff and the families that were out there, I mean, I don't think any other facility would be that fast to react. I mean, they're just, I mean, 3 seconds, not even that. They were on it. I mean, on it. From the front, from the side, people in the parking lot. They just expect it here.
It's been 10 minutes.
Right. Wow, we have to keep hustling.
It sounds like no matter what, the city of Livonia has to close a school. So why are you choosing one school? I mean, don't get me wrong, all schools are important and everything, but if you've got a bunch of schools where everybody's equal or the same or however you want to view it, why don't you consolidate one of those, with the rest of them to keep this one going?
Well,
yes.
in the way that the world is, with more people being diagnosed with these delays and autism, I have to assume enrollment here hasn't declined like maybe it has in the other schools. That's just my ignorance, I'm not sure.
I don't think it's ignorant at all.
I would assume that the school is probably held pretty steady, if not growing.
Yes.
So why not close one of the other schools?
Why close Perrinville and consolidate 2 different buildings?
But we're actually going to leave, but I would like to say one thing before we leave, because we cannot keep them quiet any longer.
You've done an admirable job.
The only thing that I would like to say is we have not yet started attending here, but we came, we came for a tour, we came for our IEP, and this place made us feel like family from the get-go. And it would be nice to know that other people have gone through some of the crap that we have. Excuse me, I'm sorry, in front of your son. Okay. Mine doesn't repeat yet. So. And
just wait.
I think that that's something that you would definitely lose if you were to break this up, because there's people here that understand, and there's people that are willing to rub your back when you don't even know them, and it's very much appreciated because she knows that. I just think it would be an awful shame to lose that family that we have felt in our hour here. So that's all we have to say. We hope you guys make the right decision. Sorry, we have to make a big exit now.
See you later.
That would be great because I come in junk.
I know there's one right up the door.
Ready, Mama?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just getting your email.
Thanks, guys. Vacant seats, guys.
Right. So, what I want to say is, I just wonder what these other, like, I don't know if it will happen, but what I'm afraid of are the other schools having this parade of maybe like weird kids and take over their school. If we're going to be having our climbing room and our, everything we need for special needs, I mean, how are these parents going to feel about the influx of 100 new kids that all need special attention? If our kids might act out in the hallway or poop on themselves, or there's things that the reason it's special here is because everybody understands it, and I worry about going on to the next school and them having resentments against us. I don't know.
Somehow you're perceived by the other schools.
Right.
I think the question is, are they prepared to deal with those types of situations?
It's a good question. It's a good question, and one of the things that we're considering is the amount of training
are they prepared
that they will require to make that happen.
And they're going to school with kids that pay to go to school.
Here?
I don't have a child here. I'm just a member of the But one thing I did want to say is, I feel very strongly that whenever you have a community at a school and how that community knits together, I really feel that becomes a part of that child's education, as a part of that safety net that's there. And I really wanted to know if you shared that same value.
Absolutely. Personally, my child, two of them that went through Webster, and that's an integrated program as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about with that sense of community. And in fact, when Webster burned down, my son had just started there. My son, by the time he had been through school for 5 years, had been in 6 different buildings. I know what you're talking about.
I want to defer to the parents and staff here. I can talk it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, I have to go.
Okay.
Is there any, will we find out any of this?
Absolutely.
I'm going to write down my email address for you. I'll email you the other questions and then.
For those of you who missed it, because you came in a little bit after I'd already said it, all of the comments that we're making, not only here, but in the other rooms as well, will all be published on the school's website so everybody can see everything that was said. Your name will not be attached to your comment. So, if that helps you be a little more candid, then that's a good thing.
And if you friend the Perrinville PTA Facebook page, we'll keep you guys updated too if you happen to be on Facebook.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming today. Okay. Yes.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say, when I was looking for schools for him, he had speech delay. And I walked into this one school, and they looked at me, and I just had a newborn. And he said, I would have to stay for 2 hours. And I couldn't, because I just had the newborn.
Right.
And she looked at me and she goes, more educated parents stay with their kids.
Well, that was awfully rude.
And I looked at her and said, how do you know what I do? When I walked through the store, they didn't say anything to me. They didn't look at me like I was different. They didn't judge me. They didn't. It is so tight community, and for you to take this away and spread it all across, how is that gonna make? It's not gonna. It's gonna make a difference. It's not gonna be the same.
Which program is your son in?
He was in the GSRT and Talk It Up, and my other son is in the ESRP. This has been a wonderful program. My other son has speech delayed. He has so much going on. The teacher talks to the doctors to tell them, keeps them updated on what's going on in the school. How is that going to be the same if you spread it in 3 different schools, or how many other schools you're going to spread it to? It's gonna change a lot, and you're gonna just throw this program away. This school has been open for how many years? I mean, and it's been by Hines Park for so many years, and the teachers from over there went over here. And for you to close it like it's nothing is just a shame.
Oh. I want you to understand that we're not closing anything like it's a nothing. We wouldn't be here if we thought it was a nothing.
Oh,
we wouldn't be listening.
The guy in there wouldn't even, he said that they made their decisions. You know?
There has not been a vote. This decision has not been finalized.
According to him, it has.
So this is not a fruitless meeting or conversation then, correct?
I don't believe it is.
Okay,
because
I hope
I know
not.
that we
Otherwise,
haven't voted on it
I
yet.
wouldn't have come here. It would have been a waste of my time.
We have not voted on
Superintendent
this
did
yet.
say that this.
Yeah, he's got it on his phone.
Yeah,
He
so.
said that the school is closing.
Who told you?
The direction in which
Dr. Lampa?
he was speaking, yeah.
Well, the board hasn't voted on it yet.
Yeah, and that was the response.
That was the response. So, I mean, I just hope we're not doing this for nothing. And you can see how tight community, how it's all over Facebook, how many people responded to this. It's just so upsetting.
I understand your passion, and we're listening.
Oh, I think my son wanted to say
Oh,
something.
okay. Sorry. By all means.
Well, you're gonna put preschoolers with like first graders, second graders, third, fourth, and they're just not gonna get along that well.
They're not gonna fit in. We're gonna look
And
at
what grade are you in?
Third.
Got that? Third grade.
third grader speaking.
That's an amazing statement. that
I
you
know,
just made.
right?
It's
Write it
absolutely
down.
amazing, and exactly what I was thinking. I mean, you talk about cross-categorical or integrating into the community, but we're talking about preschoolers. These are people's babies. It's their first contact mostly with public education. And over the years, I've heard so many parents who walk in and say, your building is so inviting, everything's small, it's all for the little kids. And that's why they get that sense of comfort.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that other staff isn't going to be welcoming you, but there's just something that we've all learned over so many years together and doing this work. And since I started with the preschool program 15 years ago, we've come forward. And now it feels like a great big huge giant step back to divide everybody, because we rely so much on each other's expertise. We talk to each other, to other, it's not like there's an ECP program and there's an autism program and there's a talkative program. It's all preschool, and we pick each other's brains. We do evaluations here. I've been part of the evaluation team since the beginning. And like Bridget said, I was one of the 4 team members that helped develop it, but the whole speech department did that. And then we make decisions and recommendations in that clinic, which is a very short period of time. You know, it's 2 hours max, because we have to work fast, right? So we make this picture based on a little snapshot, and we make a plan. And then sometimes we get it really right, and sometimes we're a little off. So we see them in the ECP program for a while, and then we say, you know, he needs more help. He needs more intensive service or a different kind of service. So we just slide them across the hall, all right? Not across the district, across the hall. Or
That's very true.
maybe they're an ECP and we say, man, you know, he's really showing a lot of growth. Let's see how they function in kind of a general ed setting. And we have them go to the GSRP program, where they're preschoolers, but they're non-special ed. Or maybe now they just need Talk It Up, which is an hour and a half twice a week. Or maybe they just need a half an hour once a week. I've known her babies, as well as many others. I remember meeting this mom.
15 years, you see a lot.
Yes, and that's one of my big concerns.
And I put down utilize programming as an evaluation tool.
Well, it's like how she was saying,
Oh, so much.
it's a well-oiled machine, and once you take that machine apart, separate it, try to put it back together again, it'll never be the same.
And clinic will be in a separate building from all of this except Talk It Up. So we don't get the opportunity to say to a teacher, you know, what do you think? I go across the hall and I'll say to somebody, look at this protocol. What do you think we should do?
It's more effective.
Or, Kitty, we need you to come down to the clinic room now. She's going to be in yet another building.
Okay, next behind you there.
Everybody's said a lot of good points. Just to reiterate a couple of them. There's no way my kids are going to get the level of service that they get here by splitting up these programs. In your mind, if you think that taking this program and putting it in this building, this program in this building is going to equal the same service, there's just no way. It's not just the staff. This entire building is set up to provide service for my kids. You can't get that by taking them and putting them over in Jackson Center. And I live near Jackson Center, and I wouldn't want them there. That building has not been updated forever, and I don't want to hear that.
I feel the same too, because that's the school that I went into, and she said that to me. So,
Right. No, we'll talk later. I'll share some things that they've said to us as well.
Oh, yeah.
I
will
there.
I will
I did, not now.
All right, can we move
also,
on?
and as our third grade friend pointed out, we've all been to elementary school, and kids who are different,
They don't feel it.
that did not work out well for them. This is a building where everybody's a little bit different. So everybody's comfortable with it, everybody accepts it, the other kids accept it. It's not unusual for them. It's a comfortable place where they can learn. It's a safe place where they can learn. You cannot take them and put them in Roosevelt and think that it's going to be the same for them. It's not.
I feel the same way. I feel that they're going to get picked on.
I mean, this program is one of the things that makes this school district special, and I feel like closing it, we're losing something that we'll never get back.
All right.
Well, I'm his wife, and I have worked in Perrinville since there's been a Perrinville, and I have taught the children with autism. I have taught them in an elementary school building, and I can tell you 100% that it is not exactly the same, and it was some of the same staff, but it was not the same as Perrinville. Perrinville is the community where everybody knows your name. It promotes least restrictive environment, which is the law, and it allows us to facilitate that much more easily. Also, my personal opinion is that segregation is not okay. And what you're proposing is to move a bunch of children with autism and segregate them into a building where experiences for inclusion are nil.
I don't know that the experiences for inclusion are nil. They're working on...
The definition of inclusion is with your same age peers in an environment that they would be expected to perform. I know this. There are no same age peers, and there is no other environment in which they were expected to perform. So there is no inclusion. There can be integration, and I would welcome it, teaching anybody about children with autism. I do every day, all day for 24 years. But that is not inclusion, so the opportunities will not exist there. Personally, I find, philosophically, I feel that that is wrong. It's wrong to take any group of people that's different and put them over someplace else and not allow them the opportunities to be part of the community. This building makes them part of the community.
Okay.
This whole building is designed for our kids. Putting them anywhere else would be robbing them of their services. And just what everyone else is saying. I mean, this is a community. This is the school. This is their home away from home. They feel special here. The staff, everybody is united. They all collaborate together. They all, you know, it's just, I couldn't imagine sending my son anywhere else. So
I like your phrase, home away from home.
I couldn't imagine you're just shoving them off somewhere else. Like, even if they have teachers, it's not going to be the same. When Josh goes this hallway, this is his school. This is his place. This is something for him in this world that he's different in.
Where shall we hop to?
The biggest thing for me is just that collaboration of resources.
Okay.
My son was in the ECP room here and has ASD. He's since moved on to mainstream Coolidge, but when he was here, it was the collaboration of all the staff. He was having a problem, a bad day. The teacher could easily go down to the ASD room and say, hey, can you come down here and help me? You can't do that in two separate buildings. A teacher from ASD cannot come over to an ECP room and help you. Same thing with OT. If he's having an issue, the OT can come in, help out, figure out what the problem is. Now that I've experienced the mainstream classroom, there's a challenge there because he doesn't have resources. There are not resources there to support him. Whereas here, all the resources are right there, and you can get someone to figure out what's going on then.
So you have everything under one roof.
A meeting 2 weeks from now to discuss what's going on with your child is not going to help him now. When he's having an issue, it's now. He's in classroom making these noises. This is the issue I currently have. Making these noises over and over and over again. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. The teachers here have the resources to figure out what to do. And then the other piece that so many parents have touched on is the fact of your child fitting in here. Whereas going into another building, a child said to me in the lunchroom, we don't talk to Evan, he's weird. You know, that's just so
They said that here?
They
Or
said
at
that
the
at
other?
his current.
Not here.
Yeah, not here.
I was going to say, that kind of doesn't sound like what everybody's been saying.
And then my other son is here now and Talk It Up, and just the amount of articulation change from just a short time is really amazing. And that again, cross coordination of resources from the teachers is amazing.
Hi, kids. I've been talking to these guys a lot lately, so I won't take much time. What I do want to say is, understanding of budgetary concerns and stuff like that, and we can find the sunny side of a lot of these changes, but the switch for the ASD program to Roosevelt, there is no sunny side to that. There is no lipstick to put on a pig in that situation. My son's an ECP. He's not directly hit by it, but I think it's the one linchpin that's it's pretty devastating to most parents, is the separation of those ECP students from those ASD students. I understand that, when you're cutting something, you're going to lose something. That's a reality of a school district, but that particular situation is pretty substantial.
So he started out in the library talking about the financial issues, and I think we all understand that there's a financial issue. There has been for a long time. Yeah. We're not saying that that's not an issue, but I don't think the cut should be made to the special needs school. Special needs is on the rise, especially with autism, and that is definitely not where the cuts need to be made. Make it in a different school, put other kids together, typical kids with other typical kids. Don't break up this school. Again, like it was mentioned earlier, typical society does not understand autistic society. If you have a child run, which my kid is a runner, you're going to have a teacher and be like, stop, stop, and stand there, and he's going to run into the street. And who's going to stop that? Nobody's going to stop it because they don't understand. Here, they will run out and stop him. And I know, sorry for the tears, I agree with everybody else. I agree with everybody else about this place being a magical place and that this is a community. But I don't feel that, thank you, that you guys are going to give that as much weight as you would black and white facts. I'm a nurse. I understand black and white facts. That this is a magical place and this is a community matters to us. Doesn't matter to the school board. But I think you need, and it's nice of you to say so, but I don't believe that. And so I feel that we need to just look at the facts. The programs that they get here, you cannot guarantee me that the program over at Roosevelt is going to be the same. They have the gym, the gross motor room, the climbing room, the butterfly room, they have the speech room, and their separate classrooms, along with all the equipment. You cannot split that between how many different schools equally and tell me that his program is going to be the same. My son now has to stay for a third year for an extended year preschool in the autism program. He's not able to go up to kindergarten yet. I need him here in Perrinville, where he can get the help he needs. Not in Roosevelt, where nobody's going to be able to provide him what he needs.
Okay.
I agree with what everybody else has said at this point. Like, his teachers, Melissa being one of them, have been wonderful to him since we've started here in September. And I'm sad that we have to leave here in June. I've asked Carrie many times, are you sure you don't want to move to Chicago with us? Because he's just grown. We had him in speech at a hospital for a year, and he learned one word in a year there. And here, you can't understand, he's talking, he's in sentences, and I'm sad that we're leaving, and I'm sad to see what's happening with this school. It's just not fair to these kids.
Okay. I've been a part of the school, not as a staff member. This is my 1.5 years as a staff member. But as a parent. My oldest daughter actually started at the old Perrinville in Farmington. And we saw, and my youngest came here, we saw the difference between the two schools because the growing number of special needs kids was growing. And when they moved here, it was just night and day. It gave me more space. They had the safety with the fencing. They had the great equipment that they needed to grow. And they could be themselves. If they had tantrums on the floor, it was fine. And the staff, when my kids were here, were awesome. And I was on the PTA, stayed on the PTA till after my kids were gone, because I love this school so much. The biggest thing that I think, the size difference between Jackson Center and here is big. This is a bigger school. It is more updated. The fenced-in area is safety. PTA painted the blacktop for a racetrack with a pan bear in the middle. You know, it's for preschool kids. I think you're closing the wrong school. I understand about budget cuts. I understand all that. But I think you need to look at the schools and what's going to have to go into Jackson Center to update it to where we need it. And the possibility of, the young fives can go to general ed. You know, you can move the young fives to K-4. I think that'll be great for the principals to get to know them. Putting ECP over there, GSRP, we have a lot of tantrums. It's gonna affect a lot of people, if especially daycare, if they're taking naps and we run down the hall screaming, it's gonna disrupt nap time. And the bathrooms there do not have changing facilities. Okay, it's gonna cost more to update that school than it daycare. Everyone at some point in this school has had some delay or disabilities with their kids. And these families learn and grow friendships because of that. And they almost form bonds and groups to help deal with, you know, to work with each other's kids. And, I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't love this school. Of course. You know, and both my kids, like I said, my oldest is 11 now, my youngest is 9. My 9-year-old is still delayed. But she is growing by leaps and bounds because she started here. And you're not going to get that separating everybody.
We have some very patient people.
I know. One more thing. At the forum that Dr. Leopold mentioned, I was there. We did discuss selling land. It was empty land. It was where Washington was. It was where Lincoln Mills was. It was not closing schools.
Those are actually being looked at right now.
No, I understand that. But he said in there that what the forum, what the people wanted was to sell land. And it just came across.
Okay, there were several suggestions, just so you know, at those forums, and it was one of them. There were many. And when that land sells, this is a big when, boy, do we want that to sell, we still won't be up to zero.
No, exactly.
We'll still be in deficit.
Right, but to sell, to go ahead and just automatically shut down and to act like it's already done. Because there was a letter that was sent home that made it sound that this was it. That people didn't know that it had not been voted on yet. And they sent it home, and this is where things are going, this is what's happening. So I actually, you know, I put something on Facebook, my opinion, to let people know it was not voted on yet.
Yeah, it's not voted on.
People did not know that.
Yeah. No, it's not voted on. That's why.
And that's the way the letter read, so I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thanks, appreciate the input.
Well, the two comments I wanted to make were already stated, but I want to just piggyback a little bit first to what Melissa said. Having worked at Jackson for 15 years, I know nothing has been updated there. I will tell you that. And the thing that it bothers me to sit there and hear him talk about, see the graph of the drop down, drop down, drop down, and how much money we don't have, and then he's going to stand there and say, we have the money to spend on a building to make changes because of its central location. He has said that at multiple meetings. I don't think that's fiscally responsible when you have a building that is wonderfully equipped right now. I think if the parents from Jackson got a chance to see what this building looked like, and if their kids could go here, they'd be like, sign me up right now. You know, so that, I just don't think that's a financial, you know, how can he come to us and say we're gonna spend more money?
Can I address that?
Well, can I just say one other thing? He also said that building can be added on to if need be. I'd like to know where, you know, with the parking lot. Because all the things that we sat as a group, they had me sitting on the meeting because I worked over there. You know, let me ask you questions, Bridget. Well, they were all have-tos. They're not what we'd like to have. They're all have-tos. Sure. And for safety and all that. So that's, that financial question is such an issue. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, school funding is funky stuff. And unlike a household, in a household, if you're running a little short and you can't make the car payment, it's really easy to say, well, we'll cut back on the grocery bill this month and move that money over here. In schools, we are not allowed to by law. We're not allowed to change, to use money from building to pay teachers. And so the money, for example, to use that we're updating the buildings with comes from the bond issue that the community voted in, and it must be spent the way that it was voted on for just those building updates, and we can't use it to get more teachers,
Well, I'm not
more
suggesting
books,
that, I'm
or-
not
or to
suggesting
keep
that. I'm
programs.
saying, take the building that's already in better shape, make the modifications, spend less money on that, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying spend it anywhere else. That's
He's
not what I'm
talking
saying.
about, you know, as opposed to closing programs. If you have a choice between keeping a program that's, you know, a wonderful program like what's here, keeping the staff, or keeping the building, that's the kind of choices we're looking at, and they're tough choices.
Right, but the thing is, I guess you can't have one without the other. You know, he's saying, oh, this can go here, this can go here, but, I mean, I feel like we could talk till we're blue in the face about how, you know, I would love to invite board members to come and see this building in action during the day.
Oh, been there.
Okay, well.
You've been to Jackson Center?
Yeah, yeah. Not since I've been on board, but before that.
Have you been to this building during the
Yes,
day? Okay,
yes.
all right, because several people I don't believe have. And then the other thing I wanted to just piggyback what my colleague Jeannie said, and I know some other parents echoed it too. When you're looking at a child having a disability, and I know sometimes I minimize even a speech and language disability because it's not autism, or it's not being nonverbal, or significant cognitive impairment, but it's a grieving time for these parents. And it takes a lot of trust to be built between the evaluators, the first contact, and them recommending a program, and then if we have to come back to them in a couple of months and go, you know what, we got this picture that day, but now we're looking at something else.
Yeah.
I feel like it really, you know, puts a, I don't know, it damages that trust when you're saying, well, now I've got to send you way over here, because this is what I think you need. And then it's hard enough to get parents to be comfortable with the testing process, the evaluation process, the identification process, let alone now we're going to have another program for your child. You know, and ultimately it's the parent's decision, but they go by, you know, our recommendation and what we can offer them. But when all these programs are separate in different buildings, it's going to be hard to get parents to really be on board, as, you know, as we think the children would benefit.
And really, you get that when you go to a K-4 building, you're in a community. If you're a kindergartner, a first grader, and even if you have an IEP, you have the support of the resource room staff, the speech language pathologist, whoever that. When you have a group of little kids, like what we're, I'm sorry to be when you have a group of kids who are probably your most needy, nonverbal, not potty trained, not able to participate in daycare. Many of our kids have been kicked out of daycares or preschools because they're not able to participate. Yes, you can understand. We've had many stories. And you're saying now we're going to have you start off in getting a speech evaluation and grant. We'll send you over to Jackson Center for ECP. That's not cutting it. We're going to send you over to Roosevelt. In a K-4 building, you're going to be serviced in that building to the best of their ability, just as Perrinville has been able to do for many years for kids who are turning 3 all the way up to 5, and they are able to get that continuity of services, much like a K-4 building is able to provide, or many of the buildings that we do have here at Perrinville. I don't think you're going to get what Bridget or Jeannie, my mentor, remember? My mentor back in 2002. You're not going to get that continuity of services when you're sending people over this. They're already mourning the loss of what they think is happening to their child. And many of us are sensitive to that, obviously because we're in special education and because we care. It's hard enough to get sometimes parents to even come back, let alone, now I want you to come over here, now I'm going to tour you. And I'm an autism consultant. I tour families who start off at Stottlemyre and come over here. It's a difficult process for them, as is any kind of building closing, but this is a needy, needy group.
Right, right. And we still have a few people we haven't heard from today.
Perrinville is a unique, one-of-a-kind program that Livonia has invested a lot of time and effort into. It is the result of collective wisdom of a lot of people who put a lot of thought into building a truly collaborative model. I don't think I can emphasize enough to you folks how important that collaboration, not just within programs, but between programs, with parents. It is a complete system here. And when people talk about it being family and feeling like family, it's because if a parent says to me, or said to me, I need you to talk to the doctor, or I need you to read the report from the doctor, that is taken as an important thing here. And once you break into different groups, it's going to be very hard to get that level of collaboration. From a long-range perspective, 17 years out, I just received invitations to 3 high school graduations. They are Livonia Public School success stories. They started with me as 3-year-old little boys. All 3 of them made moves. Some of them from Talk It Up to GSRP to ECP. Some of them from the AI program to the ECP program. They are all graduating from general ed. They all have college scholarships. I am so proud of my boys and so proud of what this model has accomplished, that to take this apart is just so wrong that I had to be here tonight to say that.
Thank you.
45 minutes.
There's just a few quick points that I'd like to go over that everyone else has already talked about. I'd like an answer to why Perrinville was chose to close. And you as a new member of the school board, I would expect you to be our ambassador and represent us. I think you said you had 3 children on the spectrum. Well, you know what a child goes through with any type of change. A change, something as little as going from one room to the next room, is earth-shattering to a child that's on the spectrum. So I would hope that you could get that point across to the rest of the school board. As the rest of the parents, you know, we've spent all kinds of money on private services, private therapy. You know, my son just turned 3, he's 3.5. He just qualified for this program when he turned 3 years old. I have searched the entire state, high and low, never found a program that both I was comfortable with and he was comfortable with until I came here. This was the only program that believes any child can talk. And when you have a child with autism, and as a parent, the only thing you want is to hear that nonverbal child speak. That's what you want to hear. And I have the utmost respect for ladies like this and the other professionals here that devote their lives to helping my child. You know, that's something very special to me. I like to also talk about kids feeling accepted. You know, I'm a product of Livonia Public Schools, and these kids are going to have a rough time in the education system with what you would call a typical child. My son's about to transition. He's in ECP. Now he's going to be going into the autism program, and we were looking forward to a nice, smooth change because he likes it here. And now, you know, we're going to be school hopping if this goes through. He's comfortable here. He likes it here. And it would be, if we can save him all the heartache and the stress on him that goes with such a large change for a child, you know, that's a lot on an adult to move a job or something. For a child, this is their whole world. This is the only thing my son knows besides my wife and I. And I have firsthand experience. I'm a Livonia Public Schools graduate. My elementary was Washington Elementary. About 300 students when I graduated. Teachers like this lady still have an impact on my life. It wasn't my middle school, it wasn't my high school where there were thousands of kids. It was a small, tight-knit community, and I don't remember impactful high school teachers or middle school teachers. I remember my impactful elementary school teachers. I remember the community of parents who were all there for the same purpose, and that's what we have here at Perrinville. Everyone's here for the same purpose. There's a devotion here to our children that you don't see from typical parents, parents of neurotypical children. And I would go as far to even say with the teachers. These teachers have an extra level of devotion because they understand more so than the general public what these children are dealing with. And closing Washington was one of the worst decisions Livonia Public Schools has ever made.
Yeah, my kids were in Tyler, closed at the same time. It's very painful.
Ms. Jarvis, one comment. We look at all of these and we keep saying these GC kids, CDF, whatever label we put on them. Every one of these kids is absolutely, utterly unique. Having those extra people around means you have a better chance to have that one person there who can reach that kid and make it click. Make them open up the opportunity to be able to learn to the best of whatever, abilities God gave them. You have to make that click, and you have to make it do early. If you put these kids off into little places where there is maybe 2 or 3, they may be the greatest people in the world, but they're not one of those that can reach that one kid. And when you, by doing this, by spreading them out, there will be kids that fall through the cracks. And instead of being people that move on in society and can fend for themselves, they will become the disciplinary problems that have to be pushed through the system and then go out on welfare or whatever.
Group homes.
It is
things
a
like that.
awful, awful waste of a human life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Just so you know, the ECP and the ADS, those are the programs, not the children.
Granted,
I don't
we
label
tend
kids.
to, yes, but it tends to be, it's a function of any bureaucracy. It tends to, you put, they're in this folder, etc. And I think the uniqueness of a human being, especially these kids who have different ways of thinking than the, quote, average kid, whatever that is. And they do need that unique. And by the way, these people being together, these teachers working together, talking together every freaking day, they become more valuable and better at reaching these kids than they ever could be separated.
That's why it's important to keep them.
I just have one more point really quick.
Melissa, we have a whole nother question to go
Okay.
through.
But
Yeah, I know, right?
We have a lot of families that are in 2 different programs. Either it's ECP, GSRP, ASD, GSRP, ASD, ECP. Those families will now have to go to different schools.
Yeah,
If we separate this.
the 1 year that before
And-
Tyler closed was the only year I ever had even 2 of my kids in the same school. I know what that feels like. It's
Yeah.
crappy.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with an autistic or a preschooler, that you're driving them all over the place. Sometimes kids just don't want to be in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be hard enough getting them to one building instead of going to 2. So I just want to make that point.
Good point. Does anyone else have anything for the first question? We're gonna
Oh,
try.
yeah, but we'll stop.
I know, because we can go on all night.
Go on all night?
Yes.
The second question, and it's the last question, so that's a good thing too, is as you look at the things that we've been talking about, what do you think is the most important piece of information that we need to take away from tonight's meeting? And it might be something we've already talked about. Odds are very good that it is. But just so, if you have to pick one thing, the most important thing. We'll start with Rob. Yeah.
I think the big thing, and I love the idea of these forums, it's great to have this communication level. I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding in the term program when looking at, we're saving the program. You're saving ECPs and ASTs and GSRPs and LOCIs. You're saving those labels and moving around. You are getting rid of Perrinville. You're getting rid of our early childhood program.
Our special ed program.
Perrinville is the program.
We're early intervention, and I think that's the most important.
You're saying Perrinville is the program, right?
It's a lot more expensive to teach a special ed student until he's 26 than it is to mainstream our students into the general ed population and have them graduate with a cap and gown at year 12.
That's a good point too.
I think the other thing, I get that probably not more than some other people, that money, it's all coming out of basically, although you say here and there, it all comes out of one pot and that cuts have to be made. But you are sacrificing your weakest and your youngest first.
Yeah.
And I think we're all having a very hard time accepting that these are the most needy students in the district because of their age and because of their disability, and they are losing their school first.
You know what? If you're talking about just what might come, I could accept that term first, but this actually started more than 9 years ago, so I can't accept that term. It started
I'm sorry,
when
but I
schools
think
like
that's how it feels
Washington
to all
and
of us.
Tyler closed.
We didn't hear any options about closing any of the general ed elementary buildings or combining any of them. We didn't hear any options of closing down or combining any of the other programs for older children. And we have children, we actually have 6 children. We have 2 that have already graduated, have gone through some programs in the high school and the middle school. I don't hear of any concessions from anybody else. What I hear is that the youngest, the weakest, the most needy are going to lose their school. I don't think that says a whole lot about I don't think it says a whole lot about our school district or a whole lot about our city.
Okay, so that's the important point that you want us to
It is.
pick, okay. I want to stick in order if that's possible, so we can make sure everyone has a turn.
Kirsten, does your husband want to say?
As a parent,
Oh, you're going that way.
it makes me feel like Livonia Public Schools does not care about special needs children and special needs families. Because Perrinville is a lot, as everyone has said umpteen times, has a lot more to do with community and helping our children succeed, going from one room to another room, and the parents themselves being able to talk to teachers, to each other. That's going to be gone, completely gone. So even though ASD is going to stand and ECP is going to stand, the rest of the impact of special ed is going to be gone.
Okay, so how would you?
I say LPS does not care about special ed needs and families and the collaboration of the Perrinville staff.
Does that sum it up?
And the community of culture of Perrinville, the culture of Perrinville.
Okay, culture. Next.
I had it in my mind and I forgot. I know that I already made the point about, oh, I forgot. But my most important concern then, because everybody else is talking about the program, would be safety. I don't feel that moving and splitting up the program specifically because my son's in the ASD program, so I'll speak to that one. I don't think that the safety is a concern moving them. I don't think it's being looked at as a concern. I mentioned the running, but also he has many other sensory issues as well as smacking. He does a lot of smacking to himself and to others. And my concern is if he's in the hallway and he smacks a typical 3rd grader, what's that kid gonna do back to my kid, you know? Because he's not doing it aggressively or meanly, you know, but, you know, again, with the safety with the kids and the running and I don't feel like the school and the staff are gonna be prepared for our children to go there.
I think you said something about check marks you were going to make when things were repeated over and over again, correct?
Yep,
I
I've got
think
them.
safety would definitely be at least 3 check marks.
Okay.
Throughout the conversation.
Yep. How about that?
Okay, next, go ahead.
I think it's gonna cost, again, I reiterate, but it's gonna cost more money to train K-4 staff to help with our special kids. It's gonna cost more money to update the schools. They will be going to. And more equipment. You cannot separate, you cannot take the equipment that's out here and separate between 3 or 4 schools. It's not gonna work.
Well, yeah, you know, obviously would have to be supplemented, wouldn't it?
Correct. And I know the PTAs have put a lot of money into the school. And we have picked up the, what is it? We picked up the, then that you guys couldn't. You know, whether they needed, we bought a vacuum, we bought a printer, you know, because their budget was cut. The PTAs have put a lot of time and a lot of money into building up the school to where it is now. And I just think it's sad if you throw that away. And it's just like any PTAs in the schools. They are picking up the slack for where, unfortunately, your cuts, exactly.
Every school.
Where your cuts are. And it's just, I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
I think the difference, sorry to piggyback off that, but the difference between the PTA here and the PTA at other schools is that the PTA here is buying special needs equipment, bikes and swings and mats. You know, a mat, play mat in the OT room is $300. And my son's typical school, they're using PTA to plant flowers. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, not even in the same ballpark of what the funds are used for.
Okay, let's keep moving.
I just want to, I don't want, because you mentioned it, and then one of the board members that emailed me back mentioned the comparing this to the legacy. And I know that was difficult for everyone. My own students, you know, my children, thankfully their school wasn't closed, but, you know, we were obviously part of a school that received students, but they were going, as like Kitty said, they were going to buildings that had this, you know, K1, 2, 3, 4 teachers. This, you know, there wasn't a safe specialist. There was a resource room teacher. There was a speech pathologist. If you're talking, you know, going to Roosevelt, they're not going to have that same collaborative. I don't like, they're apples and oranges to me. So I don't like the comparison of this to the legacy. We've done this before. This isn't the same.
Okay. My concern about comparing this to the legacy is just in terms of being on the receiving end when your school is closed, and understanding the upheaval and the transition of that happening, and to not like feel we're starting with closing, you know, with even considering closing Perrinville, because it's not the first one. It's the first one right now that we're thinking about, but it's like the 13th one or something in the last few years, since the budget cuts from the state have been coming out.
To normalize the legacy projects, I got that. I mean, I worked at Cass when Marshall closed in '89. I've worked in different buildings, but it feels like you're marginalizing the closing of a preschool special education building. Because we've closed other buildings, people will just accept it. But you're closing a building that has a history of being apart and coming together. The coming together has worked.
Sure.
And when we talk about coming together, we talk about kids are in ASD, which is probably the most restrictive programming you could be in, or MOPI, very restrictive. You're only with kids who are in that educational eligibility. We don't want them to stay in ASD programming. We want them to be able to have experiences in the early childhood program, that they can show us that they have enough skills, that they can then move to less restrictive environment, cross-categorical. It is cheaper in the long run to give kids this ASD programming, and then as their skills increase, they are able to access the early childhood program. So I don't want us to, I almost feel like, and maybe other people can piggyback on this, I feel like we're saying we want to be segregated,
Yeah,
and that might be a feeling that people are getting.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to be, we want to have a multidisciplinary team building that is able to service and be able to reach kids in all their different ability levels. But when they don't need that restrictive of an environment, us as the consultants, us as the teachers are working to put them in a less restrictive environment. So we don't want to be segregated from the general whole, which is general education. Our goal, whenever we write IEP goals, is to be able to move to that next level. I always tell that to parents, this is a new parent right here we just did an IEP for. We've got multiple parents in here. Our goal is not to stay in special education if they don't need it.
Right.
And we're trying to front load the system by providing them the best at this early age. And you get that by trust, and you get that by good quality service. You split it up, you don't have the service. You have the program, but you do not have the continuity of a multidisciplinary team reaching each and every one of these children. You have a program, but you do not have Perrinville Early Childhood Center. You have ASD over here, ECP over here. It's not the same.
And to piggyback on what Kitty just said, I think the important distinction for the board to understand is that I appreciate that they're saying we're going to save the programs, but this is a center. And what they're talking about is breaking up a center that brings all those programs together and works so effectively and collaboratively to make it effective and make it work. And that's what's going to be lost, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I do agree with that. I really don't have anything to add to it, but.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm an accountant, so I can understand the financials. That's not an issue. What you're taking away from these parents is hope. The medical community, most public education, private education is not able to provide what Perrinville has provided my son with. And I would hope that you would be able to identify with autism parents, and I hope that you will take our concerns to the board.
Of course.
Thank you.
I've been able to attend a lot of LPS board meetings and committee of the whole meetings and so on for the past year or so. And I will tell you that you're not the first people to experience this. it's difficult because Liz is, rather new to the board, and I've served on a board, and I know there are difficult decisions to make, but I would encourage you all to ask your board, who are supposed to represent your best interests, how much will this really save the district? I heard $300,000 for McKinley and this building, is that correct?
I think that's the correct number. I would have to look at what I have done.
It might sound like a lot of money. In a budget of $110 million, people, you think about that and what you are losing for that savings. I would also ask the board and the families to pressure your board members, ask them, have you exhausted all other options? Have you exhausted your school of choice options?
Yes.
So this
Do
is
you
fun.
know that the school of choice in the Taylor building is making money for the district?
I don't know, but I could check.
I think it's important to find it out.
Other questions?
The school of choice program currently occupying parts of the Taylor building.
Oh, EGRO?
Yes, is that a moneymaker? Is it breaking even?
Right now, I know it pays for itself.
So it's breaking
It's a
even?
break even.
Okay, and you know that because that was discussed at a board level meeting?
Yeah, just by looking at the numbers. We'll know more after it's been around for a few years. Then it'll level out.
I think that's important. It's only been around for 1 year, and I hear a lot more history and community in this room, in this building. So I think it's very important, but again, I wouldn't hold my expectations too high, people. I've seen a lot of these, you saw it at the budget forums that happened in January. People are again split up and assigned a board member. You got to get a lot of venting going, and you got to hear a lot of mollifying words, but the decisions were all made. And
Well, they haven't been made right now, Ann.
that may be true.
Exhausted
but-
everything else.
You just said you exhausted all options.
Well, that's true. We
Yeah.
have, in terms of things like moneymakers, selling the land, renting out a cell phone tower.
Yes.
I mean, we've done a lot.
$300,000.
I would love to have new ideas. Put on your thinking caps, help me get creative. Tell me what you can think
Have you
of.
thought about closing Jackson Center?
Yeah, we don't
There you
have
go.
room to
But
put
it's
that
not-
whole Young Five program
You can't
intact.
separate it with K-4 buildings?
Young five.
They don't have
Young
to own.
fives can go
Young
to
five can go to K4. There's
K-4.
room.
Yeah, we have to split it up, just,
I apologize for doing that.
So, I mean, there are things to think about, yes, and ideas that we probably haven't had yet, to be honest. I mean, I never would have thought about renting out a cell phone tower.
I do have a question. Is McKinley and the Perrinville both closing? My daughter also attends McKinley at a daycare.
Is
So-
it one of the ones that's leased out there?
Yes.
Okay.
And so this is affecting her on both ends, but I understand McKinley.
Mhm.
This one, I don't understand at
Mhm.
all. Now, is it true that it's proposed together? So if,
Proposed together.
to where
It's a package deal.
McKinley
It's a package
can't
deal.
close unless Perrinville
No.
also closes?
No.
Okay, because now I was stated
They're
that it was
separate.
bonded together.
No,
Okay.
they're separate.
Only in history, there was, ECP started there.
No, I'm not like closing.
That's maybe only in history there was.
Okay. I meant as far as
Yeah,
tearing
almost
down,
done.
I was told that it has to be. one or
I just
the
want to
other.
repeat what it's been said before, but like this is a well-oiled machine and breaking it up, it's not going to be the same. And again, I also agree with what Ms. New said, it feels like you're sacrificing the youngest and the ones that need the most help for the district. I just don't understand it.
Okay,
That's all
who else?
I'm good. I definitely have something to say.
I'm sure you do.
I do. Well, especially after I just spent the last 5 minutes packing in the hallway. So I apologize.
Are you
for that.
okay?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. This hasn't happened to me actually since my 11th grade exams. Actually, I had to go home. I couldn't stop coughing. I don't know what it is, but buildings, but something. All right. So again, like I said, I had this all written up because I didn't want to lose track of what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to say it like I wrote it. I'm sure there are typos, but there are many autistic children who, and again, my daughter's not on the spectrum. I thought she was. I went to neurologists, psychologists, et cetera, et cetera. I had her evaluated, and it's just speech and language.
Okay.
So fair enough, but she still had she has social issues that she really needed the assistance on, and just in 6 months, because of all of the help that is offered here at Perrinville, she has just bloomed and blossomed in this little, I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm very proud,
That's
and I'm
good.
thankful. So there are also many autistic children who could really benefit from the specialized program that Perrinville fosters within the district, and I'm sure outside as well. And there are so many parents of autistic children. And as they're born and more children are growing up and seeking preschool in just the state of Michigan and the metro area, okay, these parents will be looking for early intervention more than ever. So what about offering more school of choice for out-of-district children, since that is part of the proposal, okay? So who require these services in preschool and pre-K ages, and then will most likely be continuing to general ed and K through 12, thus increasing the annual revenue of the district and enrollment of the children. So that would benefit this revenue that's being lost. So that would actually aid in trying to figure out a solution instead of taking away from the budget.
So are you talking about increasing the school choice options? Okay.
For
I just wanted to make
Perrinville
sure.
or across the district?
Well, you're already doing it across the district, at least 50 seats, right, for, what was it?
50 seats,
elementary?
yeah.
So what about raising it more, since that's increasing, right?
We just did
So-
like a week ago.
What about for Perrinville, though?
So, well, Perrinville's got a
What
lot
about adding a
of
little bit
county
more
level
to Perrinville?
programs, so that would be up to the county.
Well, because they're talking about 300 students per year that they're losing, which seems like
Yeah.
a really high rate. But if that's the case, opening the district a little bit more to more kids, if we have the seats open, since the kids are leaving,
Yeah,
why
why
not
aren't we
switch
just
it up?
opening 300
That's
seats?
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
100 school choice.
But if we're losing
We had
300 seats,
there were
why don't we just add
108
300?
that
Yeah,
had
50
so now
this
it's
school
100.
year, and there were 180 applicants when we just
Correct.
did our, for next year.
Right.
And we were able to take 50 of them, so last week we added 50, now we can take 100 of those.
So- And I'm just gonna say this as rhetorical, just so I can get it out there, because I don't know if I'm gonna start coughing again, which is, I'm leaving, so, but it was great, you know, hearing everybody. So is it possible to add those numbers to the open district option in order to gain more students to offer somewhat of accommodations to the loss of enrollment as it is now, okay? And what fraction of the overall budget does Perrinville account for? Is there nowhere in that budget that can allow annually for this to be met? It seems very minuscule to the amount that is allotted each year per school. So to say that there are so many students leaving the district per year, again, I'm going to repeat myself. Having programs like this encourage parents of the future classes of K through 12 to stay in this district out of expectation of the caring nature and responsibility that, like, Perrinville, for example, shows to these parents. It's a form of security. So that's going to bring more people in the district. So we can stop talking about losing the kids 300, a year. Okay?
That'd be great.
So, for your parents and children share. So, children learn more in their first 5 years of their life than any other developmental stages of their entire life. So, this early intervention that is offered here is imperative. And yes, it would be, I'm sorry, but let's be realistic. Legally speaking, it would be dangerous to put these special needs children, especially the autistic children who are severely on the spectrum, okay, and having these tantrums and going into these modes where it doesn't matter who's talking to them, they're gonna freak out. And there are plenty of people in the world with no clue how to deal with that and can't understand, and a lot of kids will make fun of, they will criticize, and some kids will beat up other kids. It is human nature and it happens, unfortunately. It's sad but true.
Yep.
And I know that there are peer-to-peer programs initiated in high schools and middle schools, and that's fantastic, but that is going to take at least a decade to really hammer it into these children, okay, and teachers themselves. So that's all I'm saying. I think that there are other ideas that could be switched around with the budget that doesn't have to cost Perrinville and the parents and the kids, because this isn't even about the parents.
Send them to us.
The support, okay, I will.
Seriously.
The support that this school offers, the teachers and the equipment, okay, it helps these children. Screw everybody else. Screw the parents, right? Screw the teachers. These kids, they're in their own little worlds. They cannot always talk and communicate, and that's scary. Do you know how scary that must be to not even be able to say hi to somebody, and you're trying to say something, but it's coming out, and you're looking like a monster maybe to some other kids, and they're looking at you like you're crazy? Do you know how that must feel? So let's just throw them in the middle of all those kids. It's a terrible idea. It's terrible.
Okay.
I gotta go. But bye.
Food. I was just gonna say, been here a long time. Never wanted to leave Livonia because it was always, even good times, bad times, struggle. I really do believe that this district wants what's best for the kids. And it breaks my heart to think that they have to make these kind of decisions.
It keeps us up at night, I assure you.
Yeah, and I feel for, I think sometimes, I know you guys feel like the bad guys, and I don't believe you are the bad guys. I know our administrator, Carol, is suffering greatly over all of this because she can't express her feelings the way she would like to. I know.
She does advocate to us that she does not want the building to close. So you need to know she is your strongest
She's
advocate.
batting for you.
Yeah, well, this has been her baby
Absolutely.
for a long time. She wanted to follow in Kathy Dunagrandy's footsteps, and she didn't be a Sheila Baron, but she did it. And I know that everyone cares, but like all these arguments are really special to this setting. And I know you talk about moving, everything will be the same, they'll have the same equipment. That doesn't happen. It just can't possibly happen, and it can't, even here, it's taken time for this to get this way. Professional development, sure, you're gonna take the first 2 or 3 days of school and train those people, and it's gonna go in one ear and out the other because it's years of experience that make this a safe place. My 38, Bridget's 22, and not all of mine is with preschool, say the last 15 years. And when they asked me to take this position 15 years ago, Kitty, you were there.
I was.
We were all sitting around a table and somebody said, Jeannie, how about you? And I said, are you kidding? That job's going to be really hard. and honest to God, I left that meeting saying no. And I got tracked down and they convinced me to do it. And it's been the best way to end a career.
I did have, this was very important actually, and I was completely forgot, I'm sorry. How about grant funding from the state of Michigan for the special ed program or any other, there are plenty of options for grants. Are the grants all written up and out and they've been denied, or is there room for more grants?
There's probably room for more grants. The most important thing that you guys can all do, regardless of what happens when this is finally voted on, the most important thing, they're planning the budget for the school year right now. Right now in Lansing, you need to get a hold of your senators and your representatives, and they'll be all different communities, because you guys aren't all just from the same part of Livonia. And tell them what's going on. They don't know if you don't tell them.
Well, isn't that what you guys are for as well, though?
No, our hands are tied. We don't have anything to do with the budget they set. All we can do is tell them that right now, the way it's looking, if the budget happens the way it seems to be unfolding, we might get somewhere between $0 and $25 per student. That's it. In addition. Yeah, added on. That doesn't keep up with the inflation. That doesn't give salary increases to staff. That doesn't buy more books. That doesn't buy more desks. That doesn't buy another swing set. It doesn't buy anything. That barely buys toilet paper. We need you to speak up. They listen to you more than they listen to me. When a parent calls them, emails them, or writes to them, that carries a lot of weight. Please make your voice heard in Lansing. That's the strongest weapon we've got. Let them know what we're doing here tonight and what it means.
We have a couple more, Liz.
Yep. Who hasn't spoken yet?
I just want to go back and just say about how when my daughter was out and how everybody was in the same area and everybody was on the same page with her. It just goes without saying. It's the care and the love and the compassion that the staff and other parents and people in the classroom and what they all hold together here. It's just amazing. So even my specialist for her lung specialist, her primary, they would just fax over her results, her paperwork, anything they had concerns on. Everybody was just on the same page with her. And my son, who was here 3 years, Addison was here when she was just fresh out. She's grown here, and now this is her home. And I would hate to have.
Where's the tissue?
Everybody separated. And she has a hard time. She gets frustrated. She's shy. She doesn't just go to anybody. It would just be a whole new world for her.
is a gem to Livonia. Other districts
agree.
wish that they had what we have here. They wish they were able to provide outside services, write us our name in their reports of how great it is that this child is going to Perrinville. Not the ASD program, not the ECP program, going to Perrinville because our name is out there.
This is why my husband and I still live moved.
Yeah, this is a gem for Livonia that you're giving up, and I can say that not just by being a teacher, but by having, we have 4 children, other children who are currently in the district, and they've had some good teachers and good times, and they've had some really crappy hard times. And I can tell you that this place, this is a gem. It would be wrong on so many levels for Livonia to give this up. This is something to brag about.
Yeah. I tell everybody about Perrinville.
PR.
Everybody, you know, I mean, the city itself, yeah, it has a lot to offer, but my husband and I have lived here for 9 years and it's changed. I mean, it's not, but Perrinville itself as a whole, like, we can't leave that. And if we weren't here, they would not get that. They would not get what they get here anywhere else. And that's, you know, a choice that we make for our children to make sure that they have the best. And to take that away from them is so unfair.
And last but not least.
They got it covered.
Fair enough.
We're from another school district as well, and I will say that they always say, oh, there's an autism school out there. Like, I think it's what starts with a P. And I'm like, yeah, he goes there. Everybody knows about Perrinville. Like, Perrinville is something, like she said, to be proud of. Like, this should be something that you guys should be trying to guard as closely as possible. Because that's what every other district wants to be.
Yeah.
Did we hit time?
Yeah, we did.
I
Actually,
want
we
to
went
tell, I'm PTA nerd, and I'm current PTA nerd, some of my best PTA nerds ever right here. But more importantly, Liz Jarvis has been a major part of advocacy for our students and students all across the state for a long time. And you know, she's a good buddy of mine who gets beat up today. And
I'm tough.
Liz was really one of the advocates for this forum occurring at all. This isn't normal, guys. Like, this doesn't happen every day. So
Yeah, because I thought you guys
thank you
needed to,
in a
you had stuff to
way.
say and needed to be heard. And I know that you're feeling some trust issues, but I want you to remember it goes both ways, and I hope that you have a little bit of trust in us. We do love this program, and we're up against a wall making tough choices. If I could get more money out of Lansing, we wouldn't be having this tonight. We wouldn't even be considering this. It would be a non-issue. Life would go on today the same way it did yesterday. And I can't stress enough that that's where we need to make the change. We need to get more money out of Lansing for the classrooms. Not money for the retirement programs, for the classrooms. Let's make that happen so that we can work and make the world, and the school district and the programs that our kids need. Any other questions?
Just one more, just not a question, just more a statement. I've known Kathy Don Grande as well.
Yeah.
And this was her baby.
Yeah, it's a big loss when she
This
retired.
was her
No
baby.
offense, Jim.
No. And I know she moved from the Farmington to here, built this program up, passed it on to Sheila, passed it on to Carol. It's everybody's baby, you know, and it is the program it is today because of them. And I just think it's a shame that the year she retires, that it is now considered closing. So I just wanted to say that.
You know, I hadn't even thought about that. I hope it's a coincidence.
I'm hoping it is too. I hadn't thought about that, and I really hope it was just a coincidence.
I hope so.
So.
She did the hurt time.
Huh?
She had a lot of years.
She did.
She did have a lot of years.
One last
We're
question.
lucky we kept her as long as we
What
have.
date will you be voting on this?
We have to do it by June, I think. We'll be doing it in May sometime. We have to have the vote before we can do the budget.
Well, it must be like next week because the week after would be Memorial Day.
Yeah, but we're meeting the Tuesday then instead of the 12th.
Well, I think we understand the fiscal, and we, obviously, the teachers that are here work in a district because we respect the district and respect the fiscal responsibility, and that parents do want to come here. I mean, we want to work in a district where we're respected, the families are respected. So hopefully you don't take that as disrespect as we talk about our heart and our job, because 8 hours we sleep, 8 hours we work, and 8 hours we hang out with our families. These 8 hours are pretty impactful for what we live our life doing. And out of respect to you and to Jen and to everyone that's in this room, we just feel very strongly about it and have a really special knowledge of it that we weren't sure that the board understood.
That's why we're here tonight.
And when we watch the board meeting, people are asking like even where is that located? You know, and there's a lot of buildings in Livonia, and we understand that and respect that. You're a new board member yourself. So we respect that, but it is helpful to have forums like this to be able to have people write notes and be able to report that back, because people do need to have their feelings validated, and it needs to be noted. And I hope that the board does go back and talk about this with serious thought, because this is a very good program.
See, we need to make an informed decision. And you're the ones that help us get that.
It will be so hard to ever get it back.
Because once you give up things,
it's
not going to come back.
Now, I know they talk about building houses here. If they do knock it down, nobody's building houses. Nobody. If anything, it's going to be a retirement home because of the land. And I just think if you go into it looking at it as selling this land, knocking the building down, and trying to develop it where houses, where families will move in, everybody's moving west. Everybody's going on the other side of Middle Belt. The only thing that's going to get built here is a nursing home. So you can't look at it as an automatic future revenue. Yeah.
I don't think we are yet.
We were told different.
Somebody else. We were told different.
Well, you guys heard a lot of stuff.
That rumor's out there.
My parents asked me today,
You should go to the committee meetings.
Yeah, you
When
should
are they going?
pass
Gonna
those
vote? When are they
rumors
gonna
on
tear
to
it down?
us, because we're not
Yeah,
talking
that's
about
what
anything
we're
like
told.
that.
I said, what?
So, yeah.
I hate to
biggest
burst the
thing is
bubble,
we
but
were-
we're not talking about anything like that.
The biggest thing is we were told this was a done deal like 3 weeks ago.
It's not a big
And
2 hours ago.
well,
Yeah.
the same thing, and it's very disheartening to hear that, and I do appreciate you coming and getting our input, but to have that put at us and never even, no inkling, or let's talk to members of the staff or members of the parents, the parent community, it's, you know, it's hard to have that trust again, because I feel like it was really whipped away.
And then
But
they
you know,
send boxes.
I'm sorry, the boxes came from people who requested them, we didn't just
No,
send
no, we know
boxes.
that.
So,
Okay.
you know, I know
And they have
like
to be
Bill
packed by
Joyner's
June 13th.
accusing us of
Yeah.
sending boxes to everybody. I'm like, no, people ask for boxes, they can get boxes. But until we vote on it, it's not a done deal, and that vote hasn't happened.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
That's
So,
not the message
and I
conveyed.
apologize for any rumors that might have caused you anxiety and stuff, but, you know, from the horse's mouth, it's not a done deal yet.
Appreciate that.
There's a lot of people whose jobs are to plan and to play what if, and Dr. Leopa is one of them, and his cabinet, and, you know, they spend time designing scenarios and saying, if we did this, if we juggled that, if we moved this, what if we did this and swapped this? That's what they do. So, yeah, you know, people have been talking about this. They've been talking about what happens if we do this, what happens if we move this program here, what happens if we do that. It doesn't make it a done deal.
Thank you.
It was the letter that was sent home last week.
Who sent the
Tuesday or
letter?
Wednesday.
Well, it was Carol, but I think that she thought it was a done deal.
It came
That
across
it
that
came
it was
Came
done.
across as a
Yeah.
done deal.
I think it was written that it was a proposal, but
School.
this is where this program will go, this is where this program will go. I think people could have misread it.
Yeah.
I don't
But
think
it
it
never
was
said
black
there
and
was a
white.
vote. Never.
Well,
yeah.
but can we just understand though, if you vote next Monday or the Tuesday after Memorial Day, the only vote is closing McKinley and closing Perrinville. There's no other vote. There's no other
For
option.
Perrinville?
There's no other options, is basically, you will have that as an option to vote, and otherwise,
But they're two separate motions.
okay. Okay.
But no
But then-
other elementary or anything has been brought up as a possibility to close as a money saving. There's been no combining too, because obviously there's a bunch
At
of
this
extra
point-
rooms at Roosevelt, so there's no talk about combining two elementaries together. There's no talk about,
At this point, I'm not aware of it.
that is disheartening, that we're the only thing on the cutting block.
I just still wonder about Jackson, you know, that's in our minds too.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Is that something you could say to the board? Could they take
It's
a
on the
tour?
list, right?
Take a tour of Jackson Center.
Yes, yeah.
And take a tour, I would suggest both during the school day.
Yeah.
I would just drive on Linden about 9:15 in the morning, and
Been there.
try to get from there to here.
Yeah, I tried to turn left into their parking lot
See
then.
how you feel about 20 buses being added there, because there's 20 ECP buses. So see how you think how that's gonna, I live right behind it, so just tell me, and again at about 11:30ish, and again about 1-ish, and see how you think all that's gonna fit.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, there would have to be a whole renovation of that bus mess.
Yes.
Actually, every school in Livonia has its own bus mess, because they were all designed for walking.
Yeah.
That's true. So the parking lots are crappy, the bus loops are crappy, so. That's a whole separate
I just
issue, and
wanna
if we had
say
money,
too,
we could do something about those.
In fairness to that letter, I think that our administrator, whom I love, she's a dear friend, just felt that it was only fair for people to know.
Yes, and she's right, it is.
And
But I
know what was
apologize again.
happening. But I think,
You know,
well, we all got that impression.
Yeah, it's not a
I
done
truly
deal,
felt
and
she had that impression. Not that it had been voted on, but
Yeah.
that there was no other option on the table.
And that's true.
And I think that was an accurate.
I don't know what they're doing that they don't have it presented to the board yet, so as far as I know, I'm not aware of another, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening.
Can you ask about it?
I'm sorry?
Could you ask about it?
Sure.
Can we, community come to the vote, or is it closed?
Yeah, you can come to any meeting.
They're all open.
Yeah.
Just try and get in the room.
Well, I'll tell you, the one on the 18th is going to be really crowded because there's a lot of stuff on the agenda not related to Perrinville.
Yeah.
And the whole robotics team, I think, is going to be there. It's going to be fun.
You can have the frisbee throwing robot?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
So, any other questions? You got my ears.
So if everybody voted, well, not everybody, if the vote went no for Perrinville, no
what?
hope, to close Perrinville, then at that, what do you guys do? Go back to the drawing board
Yeah.
and come up with another vote?
Go back to the drawing board and come up with another plan.
But it's unlikely for you to do that if you don't already have another plan in mind.
I don't know. I don't know.
It sounds like it's sink or swim for you guys.
Could be tread water.
We'd love that.
The only thing is we have a time crunch because we have to have a budget put together.
But you guys knew this long before now, so.
Well, again, my hope is that, I'm hoping we get some money out of Lansing. That would really solve everything. How likely is it? If you asked me today, I'd say not very likely. If you guys go to bed.
When you find out, right?
Yeah.
You will know that before the vote.
We should, because they're supposed to let us know. They have to get their numbers out too.
Their budget for the school.
Yeah, and we can't plan our budget without their numbers. So the sooner you guys could, call up Lansing and say, hey, do you know what we're going through here? Do you know what this means? Because they don't have a clue.
You should put out something, like some type of contact for these parents and these families, for them to be able to contact Lansing and emails and things like that for these people, so they have it at hand.
If
so
you
they
go
know.
to the Livonia PTSA Council website, it has all the addresses for all of the representatives and senators.
Right on the Livonia?
The PTSA Council, Rob will help you.
Okay.
And boy, if you send them half as many emails as you sent me, they'll pay attention.
Has there been a lot of emails? I mean, more than you would have expected? Were you surprised?
For this, I
by
think
the-
I've probably received about 20 emails, probably half a dozen texts, that many phone calls, and they come every day.
Okay, I hope you've received more than 20 emails.
Yeah.
Because I could think of at least 20 in this room that have been read, at least. Yeah.
Then try by fire for 2 new people, right?
Yeah. How about that?
New positions.
Well, you guys, thanks for leaving the pitchforks at home.
Yeah, we're gonna bring them to that board meeting.
I just hope the other board members will listen as well.
I hope so. If you have questions written down, please hand them in so that we can bring those to the board's attention as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kitty.
Thank you very much. Thank you.